Okay, so what is my advocacy passion? Advocacy research kind of freaked me out a little bit when we first talked about it, to be honest. But I think that I've kind of found my niche in emerging settings, which I think is kind of funny because it wasn't working out at first. But I think that there's a lot that we're missing. So like a conversation when I did the interview with Scott Saylor, we talked a lot about emerging settings. And one thing that Dr. Saylor actually stated that I thought was real, like it sounds silly, but it kind of blew my mind. He made the comment, we talk about emerging settings, but we have been in a lot of these emerging settings for greater than 20 years. And he was like, so we're kind of trying to steer away from the terminology, the term emerging, because we've been in this setting. So I think that something that I think needs to be advocated for and needs to start happening is more research in this area. So when I started in like the industrial setting, I felt like there was a gap. I didn't know which way was up in a sense. And so I turned to research. Well, there wasn't really a lot there. There wasn't a lot to help me, a lot of guidance. And I think that that's something that definitely would help to kind of figure out why we're there and show that we are of value in these settings, because it's definitely something that I think we are definitely useful in. So I think we need to figure out exactly what we're missing. So why should we engage? Why is this important? I think something that I've noticed in emerging settings across the board that we've talked about, and it's not all of them, I've just noticed it in a lot of them, is that sometimes these settings can give better hours. So it can give you more control over the hours that you work, as far as, maybe having families or different things going on like that. And I think that that's kind of a benefit and can help to decrease. So there's a turnover rate. I know for women, I read a couple articles at one point that said, a lot of women graduate with an athletic training degree, but then there's a turnover rate and a gap on, a couple years go by and they start families and they end up working in a different field that has better hours. So I think that this is something that can open up new jobs, better hours, things that can kind of promote people having families and things like that. I also think that this is something that can decrease healthcare costs. I know that was a really big thing in a lot of different emerging settings that we talked about, was representing how they decrease costs. So what they do and how much money that saves. I mean, like down to the dollar, some people represent it that way, and it's incredible. And I think that that's something that definitely needs to be represented, and definitely could have some research done to show, again, our value in that setting. So how to engage? I think that it can be as simple as, like I said before, just starting somewhere. I couldn't find hardly anything when I first started in the specific setting I was in, and that was really difficult for me because I wanted somewhere to turn. I wanted someone who had been there in the past and had looked at it and had questions and was figuring out how to answer them. So I think it could be as simple as doing like practice-based research or action research. I know we're talking about a lot of that right now in one of our other classes. It's something that people should be doing anyways. People should be looking at outcomes, looking at what works, looking at what doesn't, and then sharing those ideas with other people in that setting or even outside of that setting, because it could be applicable to different, whether it be traditional or non-traditional athletic training settings. So I think that just kind of picking something, finding out where you have questions, where you're interested, where you want to find your outcomes, and kind of figuring that out. I think recording that data is going to be a really, really awesome thing, and then sharing it. So whether you share it between industrial, public safety, dance, NASA, I mean, there's so many emerging settings that blew my mind this semester that I didn't even know of. But I think that we just need to start and ask ourselves the question of, so what works and what doesn't, and what do we need to find out? So I think that definitely we need to focus on some research and advocate for some research in the emerging settings for support.